then the topic of this series to kind of lay the foundation for the rest is talking about closing the AI deployment gap. We have been at this for over 2 years now, working with companies, develop AI strategy, manage AI strategy, execute AI strategy. There's a lot of other large organizations doing it at high levels also. And they have come out with reports that talk about, despite the rapid adoption of AI, there is this gap between AI deployment and realizing AI value. So you see the tagline there, turning AI experimentation into exponential value. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that organizations are having today and what you can do to mitigate those. But before we get started, I'm going to do a little housekeeping here and just share with you that the concept of the 4 sessions here. So we have 4 sessions, one framework talking about the unlimited possibilities with AI. Today, we are here today talking about the deployment gap. And so the goal here, you'll see those on the bottom, is to have an understanding what's between your AI spend and the real results of that you desire. We get into next organizational readiness. So how you can evaluate your organization to determine its level of readiness to absorb, accept, apply, and really drive the value of AI within your organization. And then we get into the journey. So the various stages of AI maturity that you need to think of as you start putting together your strategy. And then lastly, we're going to wrap it up with the AI evolution roadmap. So we put all the pieces together, and there is a logical way that we approach AI strategy. We're going to share that with you within the context of the 3 previous episodes here. So hope you can make all 4 of these. This is our very first one. When you accepted the invite, I think it put these on your calendar, but I'll be reminding you on LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of you guys supporting us on LinkedIn with some of the posts. And let's just make sure that we try to attend these, because it's going to be building upon each other. And the whole idea is to help drive value for you in your organizations in the application of AI. Getting into it. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Marty King. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been at this for a while, starting companies, and I've had a few exits with those with some success, and it had a lot to do with scaling organizations and actually using technology to achieve that. So I've got over 30 years in leadership. I coach and advise CEOs to hyperscale their growth by using proven scaling methodologies along with cutting edge artificial intelligence and other technologies. I've built and sold 4 companies, generating some success, and I've scaled organizations through recessions, pandemics, and multiple disruptive tech shifts. This is by far the largest disruptive tech shift in my career and probably all of our lifetimes. My last venture, Gurnett Consulting, we leveraged AI early days. We've been at it for about 5 years now to become one of Atlassian's fastest growing partners during the global pandemic. We earned Inc. 5,000 3 times over for being one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the US. And we had a successful exit in 2023. During that process, I used AI actually as my virtual investment banker throughout the process, and used it extensively during the due diligence when we were evaluating potential partners to sell to. I have a history of developing and leading organizations responsible for the strategy, management, and execution of over $1 billion worth of IT initiatives, mission critical initiatives for Fortune 1000. So I've been at this for a while, leading and developing organizations that do exactly this. We're taking all of that expertise and that knowledge, it's myself and the team, and we have it all laser focused on AI and helping develop AI strategy, manage AI strategy, execute that AI strategy. So let's get into the good stuff. As far as attendees, the demographics, we had over 104 registrants for this. Really great to see. A lot of this was through referral. Appreciate everybody who are taking the time today to join us. Pretty great. So we have over 100 distinct companies that are represented here with this cohort. We have 11 different industries, which represent a dense cross-section of organizations and industry. And it just speaks to the fact that AI is a general purpose technology. We'll talk about this in the next slide or two, but it is ubiquitous, right? It is going to span every aspect of our personal lives, but our business lives and industry. It doesn't matter what industry you're in and what function that you are within those industries or what your personal role is within those industries. AI is going to have a significant impact on that now and in the years to come. We have over 70% of our respondents are decision makers. So you are, in many ways, going to be responsible for really helping your organizations understand what AI is and help craft that vision, that strategy, that dearly need to execute AI in the upcoming this year and the upcoming years. So taking the time to invest for this. The other 30% are, I call those emerging innovators, right? So they have that intellectual curiosity to learn about this, see how they can apply it and make a difference in their careers, but also for those that they work with, which is great. And I believe we have some students from higher ed that are also attending also. So a really great group of folks here. We asked you a simple question when you signed up for this seminar, and it was, where are you in your AI evolution journey? And over 80% of you said, we're in the installation phase. We're exploring our options, or we've bought it and we're now kind of experimenting it throughout the organization, which is great. That's the majority of organizations out there today. So don't feel bad about that. We're all starting at the same spot. But about 20% that are in that evolution phase. We have had pockets of success, and you're looking to bottle that up. And how do we scale that success across the organization? And those are some of the things that we're going to do a deeper dive in session 2, 3, and 4. So how does this map to the overall global economy? So we have McKinsey, one of the largest consulting firms in the world. They did a study in 2025, and it still holds true, as most recent research shows. It still holds true today that about 88% of organizations have adopted AI or have it in at least one function of their organizations. Yet only 5% have actually scaled it enterprise wide or achieved some reasonable value from those investments. That's huge, right? That's an 83-point gap between adoption and scale, right? So we call that the deployment gap. And we're going to talk about how we close that deployment gap and put together some of the things that help mitigate that deployment gap and get a speed to value that much quicker. But there's some other stats that are contributing to some of the reasons why we have that 83-point gap. And those are like Gen AI pilots fail to achieve any P&L impact. And that speaks to the 5%. So we talk about 5% that have scaled, but they're actually, if we look at, there's another stat, it's not on here, but those who are achieving scale are seeing less than 5% impact to the bottom line. So again, they have it at scale, they're seeing some value, but the impact to the bottom line still is not there. 68% lack data quality as a top barrier to scaling. There are foundational aspects to AI that are adjacent to AI or foundational AI. Everybody loves to look at the shiny object, but there are things that need to be in place for you really to drive value of your AI investment. And data is the lifeblood of it all. And 68% are talking about data quality being an issue. And conversely, we have some other security and governance issues that come with this emergent technology. 54% of employees are talking about using unauthorized AI tools at work, which shows massive security exposure to these organizations and liabilities. So, as we said and we learned during the social media days, right? If you are not paying for the product, you are the product, which means every interaction, every piece of data that you are putting into these systems, they are using it to train their systems and improve their products. So once you start paying for the licenses, you start reaping the benefits of some of the security and the enterprise grade components that come with that. But if you do not have a policy in place now or getting ahead of this, it becomes an issue, right? Very similar to bring your own device back in the day with mobile phones and that sort of thing. Similar concepts, right? But the size and scale, right? And the ubiquity of all of this makes it larger. Let's talk about general purpose technologies, right? The arrival versus the evolution. So general purpose technologies arrive often decades before they generate significant value. So let's take a look at some history here. We have the steam engine in the mid to late 1700s, early 1800s, right? Took place of horsepower. Late 1800s, early 1900s, electricity. We had the internet. We've all lived through the internet and saw what that was able to do for our lives. And now we are on the really beginning stages of artificial intelligence, which arguably is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, general purpose technology that seen humanity. We're really at the beginning stages of it all, right? So very exciting times, but there's rightfully so, some scary times. But the whole purpose of this here is to educate, so you alleviate some of that anxiety and put a strategy in place to really harness the power of AI. So let's talk about a lesson learned 140 years ago, right? General purpose technology, electricity. Thomas Edison, 1881, made commercial electricity available, and industry ran to this technology, and they swapped out their steam engines and they put in electric motors without changing systems. And the outcome was zero productivity gains for almost 30 years. And the problem with that was these steam engine powered factories, everything was concentrated by the source of power. So you had this steam engine in the basement of these factories driving a turbine that would often go 3 to 4 stories high. And as you can see in these pictures on the left-hand side is they would run pulley systems off of those that would drive the machines. So you had basically workers, your tools all concentrated around that turbine, the source of the power. And really, what they saw was sure, it was a lot cleaner for the employees. They weren't seeing any productivity gains or anything like that. In 1910, Henry Ford, he started building his factories out and putting in electric motors. And basically, it was the same issue, layering old technology, new technology on top of old manufacturing processes. And he saw the same results, only slight cost reductions, didn't see the promise of this new emerging technology. Took them 3 years to finally take a look at their business. And they fundamentally redesigned the entire workflow of his organization, his company, his enterprise, right? We all kind of story. The assembly line was born. And what he did was break up the workflow into its distinct components and the effectiveness and efficiencies with the handoffs between those. And he was able to do that by bringing the power to the workflows, not the workflow to the power. Factories went from stories high to large, 1 story high, everything streamlined, right? And they were able to see the production time drop from 728 minutes down to 93. And the cost dropped from 850 for Model T down to 260. And the rest is history, right? He was able to bring the Model T to the masses and transformed human transport, we know it today. So you want to talk about fundamentally changing industry and society by reimagining what your business looks like and how it operates. We are at that point today, and we don't want to make the same mistake other industrials made 140 years ago. So let's bring it back to current times and where we are today with AI. We call this the misconception cascade, right? So they're like one thing compounds in another, or compounds another, and that contributes to that deployment gap that we were talking about earlier. So we can see it here where, we deployed AI, we're innovative, we're evolving, we're on the cutting edge here. And the reality is your deployment is just the start, right? Oh, well, we gave them the tool. We, like signing up for Netflix streaming account, right? It's $25 or whatever. Great. We bought Copilot. Copilot comes with Microsoft 365. Awesome. Everybody has AI now. The rest is take care of itself. We'll provide them some training. We'll take care of it. The reality is what we're talking about, it requires a fundamental mindset shift in a safe environment, right? A lot of anxiety and concern about AI and the impact to people's careers and their lives and your businesses, right? You have to take that into account with organizational change. Right. So that doesn't solve everything. You need that mindset and the safety strategy, tool selection. I went with Copilot. I went with OpenAI. I picked out Claude. I'm using Google's Gemini. Strategy complete. No, really, it's just the ability. You're picking a tool that will enhance the capabilities of your organization and your workforce. Right. That's just one step of the process. And then lastly, you launch it and you hope for the best. And the reality is, like Henry Ford did, you have to take a look at the change in your operating model. There's some other things that contribute to this too. We call it a dual overconfidence trap. We think it's magic, right? The magic bullet, the silver bullet that we had a demo, we played with AI, we saw some remarkable results. It's going to change everything that ails us. And the reality is every one of your companies is unique in its own special way. You have your culture, you have your history, you have your ethos, you have your values, right? You have the people in your company all and what you do and your brand promise and your core capabilities that you're delivering to the marketplace are all unique to you. And you have to take that in context when you're picking the tool and looking how AI can apply. It's not going to change everything. It takes work. And lastly, we talked about this is underestimating the data needs. 84% of organizations lack the data infrastructure to really drive the benefit of AI, to tap into their vast resources. And only 39% of enterprise data is ready. which is pretty remarkable. The most important thing, though, you have to start with your people. At AIX, this is the way we look at it. There's an old adage in my 30 years of technology, it was people, process, technology. The way we look at it now is this: people, technology, process, right? 50% of the effort for AI initiatives has to take place with your people, your culture, all the things I was just talking about in the previous slide. You have to take all of that into account, and that has to be woven into your strategy to be effective. The next one is pick your tool, right? All right, we're going with Claude. We're going with Gemini. We're going with OpenAI. If you do that, make a commitment to know what the capabilities of those tools are, what the roadmap is, as much as you can. But we call them frontier models for a reason. They are changing every day. They are pioneers, right? They're going out into the frontier and learning new capabilities and what the landscape is, right, out there. And some tools are advancing at a different pace than others, and some are focusing in different areas than others are. And you have to know what those are and be committed to keeping abreast of that, so that when you put it together, and the relationship between your people and AI is going to provide you exponential capability and capacity to achieve great things. And once you understand what that is, that's when you start looking at your business and saying, okay, part of our business, can this incredible capability of our people and the technology transform and change and make a true differentiating factor for us in the marketplace? That's the way you need to go about it. 50, 20, 30 is the ratio that we have for the people, technology, process. So those who went tech first, 1.6 times more likely to fail on their ROI targets. Those who went employee-centric approach were 7 times more likely to be AI mature than their peers. They're pulling ahead of the competition because they're focused on this discipline, right? It has everything to do with how you're going about things as much as it is what you're doing, right? So you have to think about that. Let's get into the juicy stuff here. Relationship, not skill, right? So we know it's weird. I'm talking about relationships with technology. I know my boys, Johnny Dascom, the guy who asked me about my Meta sunglasses, he's going to be ripping me on this one. But it's a relationship with the technology. It's very true. So if we have it, we like to keep it simple here. Firm, we have 3 simple phases of AI maturity. So we have the tool user, right? I'm using it like Google on steroids. I use Google to find things. It's very transactional. I ask it for stuff, it brings it back to me. It's pretty cool. It does a better job than Google could. The next level is I use it as a thought partner. It helps me produce things. It helps me do my job that much, faster and higher quality, right? And this is where it gets into, I provide it some context. I know how to ask it in a certain way to get the desired results back. There's guardrails that I put in place so that I can guide AI to generate, right? AI is generating outputs that I can then take and consume. But the pinnacle is what we call co-intelligence. And that's where you are thinking with AI. It's that bidirectional synthesis flow state that you can get into AI. And we're going to talk about what that means in the next 2 slides here. So the baseline of the modern workforce, stage 1, right? Like I was saying, we use define things. It's directional. It's one way. It's human to AI. It's like the mindset, right? We talk about the mindset. We're going to get into that. So I'm going to not stop talking about the mindset, but it's basically we use it as a search engine and it retrieves stuff for us, and it's very transactional. Over 60% of the workforce use it like this. Stage 2, or people, I would say, it's probably higher with general public. I'd say probably more like 80% are using it that way. Stage 2, thought partner. It helps me produce things, right? The direction still is one way, right? I am instructing AI to do something. It produces something, brings it back to me, right? It's a little more involved. I provide a context. It executes the result for me. I look at it. We ask it to refine. I put it back. We add a little bit for a little bit more. It brings it back until it's refined to the desired result that we're looking for. You're receiving structured deliverables. There was a study by business along with Boston Consulting Group where they gave some really highly trained and top level management consultants access to these tools. And what they really found was that there was a 12% increase in output. The speed at which they were able to do it increased by 25%. But look at this last statistic, 40% greater quality. Some really remarkable results. So The idea is if we can get our workforce and yourselves personally, and as leaders of organizations, get your intellectual capital of your organization moving towards something like this, where you can get 40% increase in quality at 25 the speed. All right, that's pretty remarkable stuff. But lastly, let's look at co-intelligence, and it's where you think with AI. And this is really where the magic is. It's bidirectional. So you're not necessarily going into, you might have a desired result, but the finished product, you're not really sure what that is. Right. And then now we get into like strategy or ideating on product or ideating on market strategy, um, operational processes, right? You're exploring the unknown with AI, and it's more of an emergence and a synthesis, right? So you're bringing your experience, your expertise, your knowledge, right, of the industry, of the company, and you're bringing that to AI. And along with AI, it's bringing its massive compute power, its rationale, its pattern recognition, the knowledge of humanity has it at its fingertips, right? And now you're synthesizing that with your knowledge, and you're coming up with, I call it, you get into a flow state where you're able to come out with insights or outcomes or breakthroughs that you wouldn't be able to do on your own. And neither could AI without your context and your input. But both of you together, that's where the magic happens. So, have some Q&A here. I have a poll. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off. Give me a second here. Oh, I have polls and quizzes here. I'd like to ask all of you, where are you in the maturity cycle here? Where do you stand? Tool user, thought partner, co-intelligence. This is great. Colin Owen. Give it a little bit more time here. We've got some people who are abstaining from the poll. That's okay. You can be shy. Well, it looks like we have a pretty good cross section here. This is awesome. User, we're at 35%. Thought partner, 42%. Excellent. And we have those who are at the co-intelligence stage who have used the tool in a co-intelligence manner at 23%. So that's pretty great. It was pretty great. I'm going to take a little screenshot of that and the PO. So 35 tool user, 42 thought partner, and 23 co-intelligence. Excellent. All right, moving on. So we have the mindset set, right? Now, these are some of the things that are foundational, right, to keep the edge. And there's a commitment to mastery that has to take place here, and it's very important, right? So we talk about the fluency. So the various levels and stages of AI maturity, right? The tool user, thought partner, co-intelligence. You're not going to go co-intelligence on everything that you're doing with AI, right? There's times when you're going to need to use it as a tool, and times when you're going to need to use it as a thought partner. And knowing, right, what those modes are and when to apply those in your personal life and in your professional life, right? That's important. But what's also equally important, if not more important, is discernment and knowing exactly when to override the machine. And this is, adoption of AI really starts to take hold. This is starting to become, an issue where, are abdicating their responsibility or their accountability or their judgment to AI. And we certainly can't. Human in the loop all the time. We are the thought leaders, and AI is the amplifier or the thought partner, right? We have to maintain that mindset and be reminded of that constantly. And your people have to be reminded of that, right? So knowing when to override the machine called BS, know when it's hallucinating, that's where your experience, your expertise, your human judgment comes into play. And then lastly, adaptation, right? And this is just a commitment to learning. This is happening at such a speed. I remember back in the internet days and when cloud and mobile started to come out in social media, they were talking about the problem because things were moving so fast that us as human animals, we were used to absorbing and understanding and synthesizing information at a certain pace. And this was by far outpacing that. It was becoming an issue. Well, now here we are with AI, and I would say it's probably 5 to 10x what that stuff was, right? It's super, and it's a job in itself, but you have to be committed to learning at the rate of AI evolution or better, right? As much as that's as you can, you have to be at the very least at the rate of evolution. I'll give you an example, right? So I like to think I'm at a pretty high level with AI competency. The things that I was doing during Christmas, during the holiday season, that was cutting edge is just table stakes now or obsolete. I would say it's probably 50-50 split between that stuff doesn't work anymore. And Yeah, the basic stuff, right? That's like user level stuff that you were doing back even 3 months ago. And I guarantee you this summer, I'll be saying the same thing about what I'm doing today. And by the end of this year, I don't even know what's going to happen because stuff's just changing so quickly. But I'm having a lot of fun learning about it, as I would encourage you to do the same. It's very interesting and it can apply. It's very, like I said, it's ubiquitous. It can apply to any interest that you have, your career, your hobbies, what have you. You have to be committed to that adaptation. And lastly, foundational, right? Human agency primacy. AI is the amplifier, not the replacement, right? We have to remember that it's an amplifier, not the replacement. I want to take an abundance approach to AI, right? There's a lot of talk, and I know it's hit the headlines with Amazon and Facebook and Square, thousands of employees and calling it, due to AI. Honestly, I'm calling some BS on that. We'll call that AI washing. The reality is they overhired and it's mismanagement and lack of leadership. And they'd rather say it's due to the innovations of AI, right? That we have to in one day lay off of 4,000 people. I don't buy it. But I do buy this. This is an opportunity to amplify your current workforce. So those hiring models that you might have where historically you would hire 3 or 4 more people because workload is getting higher or the volume of sales has increased. This is an opportunity to fundamentally look at your business and say, okay, how do we use AI and the technology available to us to drive efficiency? So we might not necessarily have to make that additional expense to deliver that service, right? Or how do we alleviate some of the cognitive drudgery of the job, the cognitive drudgery associated with the jobs that we have within our organization? How can we free up those tasks, right? The kind of checkbox tasks that nobody really loves to do, but it's a necessary evil. If we can offload that and free up creativity and the capacity of people to think strategically and amplify that collective intelligence of your organization, that's the opportunity at hand here, right? We all talk about asset. The most important asset are our people. And our people is the collective intelligence of the organization. And if we're talking about amplifying the collective intelligence of your organization, can you imagine what's possible? I leave that with you right now. Just sit and think about what would be possible if you were able to alleviate 30, maybe even 40% of that and free that up to be creative and strategic. Powerful stuff. So, human agency primacy. Let AI inform your decisions with deep analysis. Human in the loop. Quality decreases over time once folks start, and this is important, they stop thinking critically and reviewing those outputs, right? The amplification takes place when you have human in the loop and you have human discernment paramount. So, with all of this said, we have two tests here. One, it speaks to the maturity that we're talking about, the maturity model. Tool use, thought partner, and co-intelligence. It's the co-intelligence test. Can you and AI create insights together that neither of you could create alone? If the answer is yes, you are in that co-intelligence space. As you start scaling, right, and it's you yourself, but as we start looking at teams and departments and functions, and then your company as a whole, intellectual capital test, right? If AI disappeared tomorrow, would you be more or less capable than when you started? If the answer is yes, that you are more capable through your interaction with AI, your critical thinking and your use of the tool and how you think about problems and outcomes that you want to achieve, you are amplifying your intellectual or your cognitive capabilities. It's only when we become dependent on it is when we start atrophying. Just like any other muscle in the body, you stop using it at a high level, it's going to diminish in its ability to perform, right? And that's what we have to be careful of and be cognizant of when we're drafting our strategies and how we're rolling this out on our organizations. So now that we went through all of that stuff, we want to talk about, we define our exponential outcomes, right? When the structure and the process succeeds, the financial results are going to follow, and it's going to be remarkable. There's some studies, and we lifted this off of some studies that the larger firms have put together with Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, Deloitte, PwC, and some of the firms that they're working with, right? There's only 5% that they were deemed, that there were only 5% of their clients that they were putting into the bucket where these folks get it. And when they did, they were able to see a 1.7% increase, or excuse me, times increase in revenue, 3.6 in shareholder return, and 2.7 on return on capital. And these are just the beginning stages. So I ask you, look at some of the key strategic metrics within your organization. And at the very least, can we 3 or 5x that? And you can only answer that question once you start doing the work on what is my organization capable of, right? What capabilities do we have? When we marry it with a certain AI model, what is capable? What's possible, right? So 3 to 5 times X, the strategic metric, and then, or we build a whole new capability or a whole new process or way of doing things, right? That produces a drastically different outcome. The horizon for this, our advice to our clients are can't go over 12 months. In fact, we want to see this less than 12 months, right? If you can do a 6 to a 9 month, that's decent. But anything beyond 12 months, like I was saying before, the technology, the frontier models, and the capabilities of those are changing weekly, right? So if you have a plan in place where you want to achieve something in 12 months, more than likely it's going to be obsolete or you're going to have to pivot and change based on the developments in the market. And once you do that, we go back to kind of three-test diagnostic. It's similar to what common theme throughout this presentation, but you want to filter it through these capability gates. So when you're looking at these exponential outcomes that you look to achieve, human alone test, can we do this without AI? Then you're just talking about straight up business process improvement and optimization, right? That's been around forever, and there are cases for that. The next one is AI alone test. AI do this without us. If AI can do it without the human in the loop, then you're just talking about commodity automation, right? I was just chatting with a friend and colleague who's in the distribution business, distribute product, and they tell you like, hey, we move boxes, and talking about process automation and robotics within the warehouses, right? That automation, and it can be automation, automation, that sort of thing. Just you're talking basic automation right there. It's when you get into co-intelligence where you say, I need both human and AI together to explore what's impossible. What once was impossible is possible now. Let's explore what that is and what's achievable. And that is where you're going to achieve those exponential results. So we're down to 11:40. I have some extra slides here that I'm going to go through and provide you an example. I'm going to go through this and provide you an example of some of the things that we've been able to do for our own firm and for some of our customers, right? So we were talking about architecting exponential velocity and value, right? So how do we increase the velocity to value for our organization and our clients? And so when we want to look at consulting, our business, and we have like probably 30% of the attendees here, or 40% of the attendees are on this space. So we have to fundamentally look at the consulting or professional services, right? And the traditional models often optimize for billable hours, yielding appreciating static deliverables, right? So, you, the other 70% who have had consultants before, you all know what we're talking about, where, spend time, we produce a report, we give you a PowerPoint presentation, findings and recommendations, right? And we leave it with you with your game plan and your roadmap. And it's static, right? It's in that moment in time in which we provide that to you. We wanted to look at that and say, how can we, as a result of engaging firm, use intelligence as an acquired asset? So we're not giving you just a static report, but we're giving you a platform that is going to grow and evolve with your interaction with it. So as your company changes or your market changes, it can take that into account and adjust based on that, right? So how do we do that? And AI is capable and affording us the ability to deliver things like this for linear hours of effort, right? Time, changing time for dollars. And really, what we want to flip that on its head and say, listen, we want to be building an exponential capability, right? So that there's a platform here when we leave that you can continue to use, and you see that as a compounding asset versus one-time expense. And then at the end, I counted myself here, but accepting a status report is the standard. And really, what we're doing is leaving a compounding intelligence platform that then you can start using yourself within the organization. And if you need us in the future, that we can start contributing to that too, so that this becomes a compounding intelligence platform versus just a static report that then humans have to read and synthesize and consume. And again, the speed to value is what we're talking about, and the sustainability of value is what we're talking about here. So we were able to, and this took some time, right? We're talking about, if we're in the knowledge business, we have terabytes of data and knowledge that has been accumulated over my own personal 30 years of management consulting and tech consulting, but we have those of our organization. And then we have data pipes coming into our systems on a daily basis. And we're developing models on top of that data. Talked about before is that the institutional data is often the blocker to really achieve those exponential values. We drinking our own Kool-Aid here, and we've basically built it ourselves from the ground up with our vector databases. And that combined with AI and business process improvement, we've been able to compress, which just 3 years ago would take us 12 weeks to accomplish, months with maybe 2.5. We're able to condense this. Now, again, access to our clients and their availability too, but in a perfect world, we are able to achieve what we once were able to achieve 12 weeks down to 3. And I'm not kidding, it's down to 75%. So the operational mechanics, if we kind of look at it, the old model was 12 weeks. It took 672 hours of resources, humans to do that. Allocate someone to a project, they have to be committed to that project. And it's variable on what their utilization is, right? But they're committed to the project. Velocity was the baseline, and what the output was a static report and a presentation. Our AIX model, we're able to get it down to 3 weeks. The 36 hours I consider to be the most critical. That is the human interaction with our clients, where we are focused 150% on the human aspect of the engagement. So we're talking about ideation, strategy, the nuances of it all, and we're using the outputs of our models inform those decisions. And so we have a massive base behind us, powered with these frontier models that afford us that capabilities, and we're able to deliver outputs in different modes. So it's not only written report or a presentation. We're able to do infographics now, interactive infographics. Podcasts. We're developing podcasts for our clients to listen to. They're driving to work or working out. So there's studies on how humans learn, and there's visual, there's reading, and then there's audio. So we are doing everything in our power to leverage AI to ensure that velocity to value for our clients, so they can make decisions a lot quicker and their competition. What comes at the end of that is an intelligence asset, as I was talking about before. Is there is a leftover. What's left over is a knowledge bank. And depending on whatever tool that they have that they've chosen, layer the LLM on top of that and extract data out of sites out of that, and use it to augment other things that they're doing within their organization. So again, just this is the type of thought process you need to have when you're talking at your business, right? 30 years in the consulting business, all the things that I thought we could do better, but we never had the means to do better, faster, more value possible now. And so again, going back to the engineering is fundamentally a strategic yield, not only for our clients, but organization too, right? We're doing some high value stuff like 90% of the time. The cognitive drudgery of some of this other stuff that was required as a consultant is by and large taken care of by the tools. So we're able to increase the velocity 4 times. The effort, we were able to reduce that to like, again, that was a year's worth of laying the foundation here, but what we're able to do is pretty remarkable results. Asset type static report versus a dynamic intelligence tool. So the whole idea is driving that exponential value creation for our clients. So with that said, that was an example there. I have some other ones. We have some clients that are on the call now that we've been able to do some pretty interesting stuff also. But I thought, that we're drinking Kool-Aid here. We're drinking our own champagne, and some of the examples of what we were able to do as an organization and go to market with in a very short period of time, do the same. So is it right now. I will open it up. We have 15 minutes left for Q&A. I think the way this thing is set up is we have Q&A panel where you can type in some questions and I can answer those for you. I have my QR code up here right now. If we have not connected, feel free to take a snapshot of that. There's a little blurb about me and everything you need to know about the company and me. So you can keep in touch, and hopefully we'll see each other in the next 3 sessions. So I'll open up the floor right now for the questions. Let me just pull my little slide up over here. Will be available to all the attendees and the registrants. Some people who would have loved to see it, but they weren't able to make it. So we are going to do that for you. And you probably see this cut up a little bit in my shiny face on LinkedIn or other social media that you're on. All right, we've got academia. We got BU in the house, which is great. I see you. Thank you. The top 3 barriers to, okay, would you say the top 3 barriers to organizational readiness in addition to the rapid state of change? Okay. The top 3 barriers, I would say that the adage still holds true. Strategy, culture will eat strategy for lunch or breakfast every day of the week. And I think that is the largest barrier that organizations are seeing right now. Those conception cascade of, hey, really easy to get involved with this powerful tool. If we just put it in the hands of our people, the rest will take care of itself. I think is that misconception is a large one from leadership. And failing to recognize the anxiety that some of your employees may have about AI. Um, Scary. About when you were trying to roll out your accounting system or your ERP system or CRM, right? Those are deterministic systems, right? They have a fixed use and a fixed functionality set, right? And it will apply to people's specific functions of the organization, right? So it's pretty easy to communicate, features and benefits of the tool. With AI, it is ubiquitous, right? You can make it anything that you want. And so the communication for leadership, different challenge for you. You have to be very, very serious about crafting the strategy and the proper messaging around that because hype is everywhere and it's scaring a lot of people, right? Supposedly, we were all supposed, humanity was supposed to be, for I think this summer, according to some talking heads, right? That's not the case. It's going to take some time. So it's very important to take into anxiety of your workforce and being able to communicate that in an effective way and roll this out in a certain way. You're always going to have your champions. You're always going to have your, group, right? A third are going to be terrified of change and are going to be, dog new tricks or leopard spots, whatever analogy you want to use, and it's winning them over, which is huge. But also say that it's very generational, also, right? So if we have boomers, our workforce, right? I'm sure they're right. The level of acceptance, right, and adoption that we're talking about that's required to do this might be some apprehension there. Gen Xers like us, like I'm Gen Xer, right? I need to happen to be tech leaning. There's a lot of us who aren't, right? So it's a matter of winning them over. But then once you start getting beyond the Gen Xers and the younger generations, they're going to expect this, right? They're not providing an environment where they can learn and apply this technology. They're going to go to another firm, dare I say, a competitor that is doing it. They're going to thrive. So those are some of the things that you need to. The other two I would say is your data is going to be a barrier, especially if you want to start tapping into the unique data that you have, which is really the game changer in all of this. Going to be a huge challenge. And I would say everything, it's governance. So it has to be governance with the tool, but also data governance. You get the data to a certain set, it's maintaining that, right? So you can continue building, compounding asset I keep on talking about. That has to be fed data on a daily basis or a weekly basis consistently, and it has to be fed clean data. So those are some of the things you need to consider. Sorry if I was a little verbose on that one. Can I share my deck? Yes, I can share my deck. Seeing that things anonymous. Great question, right? So, seeing that things take far less than elapsed time, do your clients see that or expect to pay less for the engagements? Um, we're talking about value here. Of course, right? It is going to be less than what your 12, what was it? I say it about a 3 month engagement with 2.5 people on that, with all the other bells and whistles that have to be involved. It's going to be less, but you pay for what you receive. So if you're able to receive a certain level of value that you've never seen before or experienced, and able to consume that and apply that in ways that you have never been able to before within a fraction of the time, there's a premium for that, right? And there's a value associated with that. So, doing the old dollars per hour thing, you're like, oh, gee whiz, I can get this for a fraction of, of what it normally took. That's not the case. We're moving from a value, a velocity to value play here. So there's a happy balance between the two, but it has to be a realization of expected. Fast mover here, and we consider a differentiator for us. We're able to do things that our competitors have been able to do. And I go so far to say we're going to be doing things 6 months from now that they're not doing, and they're probably going to be 6 months from now where we are today, right? So it's moving at that pace. Good question, though. And I knew that was going to come up when I brought that up to demonstration. The thing too is conversely, we have clients where we're able to turn things around very, very quickly, and we're, one workflow where it kind of aim was performing due diligence. It was a merger and acquisition firm. We have quite a few that are doing that in the real estate and hospitality. And they would have 2 to 3 analysts spend about 12 weeks analyzing general ledgers of potential companies to do the financial analysis, and they were looking for specific things. We were able to map that process within record time, within a week, and turn around agents that would take care of that cognitive drudgery. Right, the analysts hated the work. It was just rows and rows of data that they were analyzing and using some tools, but we were able to get it done. Each unit, it used to take weeks, and we were able to get it down. I'm not kidding. We were able to get it down to 5 minutes and produce insights and be able to slice and dice the data in ways that um, human would not be able to do correctly or within the time frame that we're able to do it. So I look at that and I say, okay, it took us maybe about 2 weeks to deliver this for you. I would love to get into some gain sharing, right? So now we're talking about innovating on how we get compensated for the value we're bringing to the table, right? Don't charge us, charge you a cent, and start seeing the value, and we want to share in that value that we're driving for the company. It's just interesting with times and opportunities. Can you share how you frame it with people to help them get over their fear? Yeah, I think down to 5 minutes in, there's quite a few questions, so I'm going to blast through these pretty quickly. I go back to some of my concepts and my comments earlier about the abundance mindset, right? And the fact that we see this as an opportunity to enhance cognitive ability and reduce cognitive drudgery, right? Everybody wants to punch a time clock, right? Everybody wants to make a difference and know that they're providing value and working towards a purpose, right? And so if you're able to marry your AI strategy to your company's vision and purpose and values and brand promise and core competencies and differentiators that you're going to market with, if you're able to map it towards that and they're able to see it within the context of their career and what they're going to be asked to do for you every single day, days a week, 40 hours a week, put it in the context of we're enhancing this for you. And you're going to be able to do things that you only dreamt of doing before. Need to put it in that context. It has to be in abundance. Right now, everything's about stripping away and reducing and eliminating, and it's all the wrong things. You have to reframe it on the right things. I'm reading some questions here. Okay, so I have someone asking me, given the rapid state of AI advancement, is there a critical way to stay informed of these new developments? Yeah, and I think, you know what, I might even create a new seminar, the trade and tools that we use. We'll say this, that are a great resource to read. A lot of slop out there, but there's some good gems there. But I would say the wealth of knowledge that YouTube is remarkable. So if you can do some research and subscribe to some of the thought leaders in there, constantly posting, and there's just so much out there, stuff. Way to harness all of that. Again, the collective intelligence, intellectual capital that is within YouTube. There is a product called Notebook LM that Google makes. And again, it's going to sound scary, but it isn't. They've really done a great job this together. And it was originally built to be a research tool, right? So it's doing your own perfect blend of AI and human curiosity and consumption of information and data. You are able to procure, so you could say, give me all the top 10 Gemini's in there, and you can ask and say, I want you to provide me the top 10 videos on Claude, right? And irony, right? You're using a Google tool to research Claude. It doesn't matter. All right, I want to know all about Claude Coda. What is this Claude Cowork thing's all about, right? Give me the top 10. It will pull up the top 10. You, human in the loop, can look at each one of those and determine which one is good and you want to drop into your knowledge base. You are able to build your own personal knowledge base in this tool. Then you have Gemini on top of it. It has a chat window where you can ask it anything. Its information, its insights will be rooted in that data. It's not going to go out and start hallucinating and pulling stuff in, what it thinks you may want. It knows what you want. It's right there, right? So it's going to be going deep on that data that you procure. Then they have a portion on the right-hand side called Studio. And that is where you're able to create infographics, cards. Actually creates a podcast that you can interact with. It'll literally take the content, you create a prompt and say, I want to focus on Claude and how to integrate with other platforms, right? How do I integrate with Slack and QuickBooks and my Outlook platform? Okay, create a podcast on that. There's going to be two people talking about it, the ins and outs of it. If you have a question, you can literally hit a button and ask it. Say, "Oh, that thing about Outlook that you were talking about, I have, another thing I'd like you to do a deeper dive on," and they will stop and start talking about the thing you asked them about. Pretty remarkable. So I would say this, LM, if you want to learn anything about the tools, any concept, investigate Notebook LM. 12 o'clock right now, folks. I got a couple of more questions. You can hang out and answer these questions if you want. I can collect these and maybe put them in a little blog and send it out to you guys. But we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank all of you right now for spending your hour of your week with me. I hope you found it valuable. If you did, please tell your family and friends. We have three more of these. They come in every other week. Check it out, and trust me, I'll be online, yes, and making sure you don't forget about us. But if you found value in it, great. And conversely, if you didn't find value in it and you thought there were some things I should do to improve this, you have my email, you have my direct message, email line, nothing sacred. Thank you for all of you who need to jump off. But like I said, I can hang out and ask and answer some more of these questions. We currently have about 28 people hanging out a minute after 12. So I'll just keep on going until people drop off, and we'll compile all of this and provide it to you after the fact. So again, those who have to leave, thank you very much. All right, I'll go through a couple of more of these questions here until there's no one left, because I just love it so much. All right, got a great question. To your question here, I think it warrants a little bit more time and thought to answer that for you. So I would like to take that offline and I will provide that to you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. I found connection to outside tools being stubborn and enabling the leverage of AI to get what is desired. Example, if using some data to pull, make it easy for non-data savvy users, BI. Okay, Matt, this is evolving over time, and I would say the one tool that does a fantastic job, kind of everything into its environment, is Claude. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Claude was built, it was a spin-off, early days. There was a group of engineers that spun off from OpenAI and created Claude. And their focus was to be the ethical AI and ones that business users could go to and feel confident in the way it was being engineered and constructed. So they don't, right? They're kind of greenfield. And they have, because they're in focus and all about kind of governance and ethics and that sort of thing, have built out and they continue to build out an incredible ecosystem and capabilities to tap into other sources. The tools you name specific ones I won't name them, but you're not there already. They probably have some APIs and you are going to need some technical help to get those connected. But I would say out of the majority of them, Claude is the one that's doing their level best to get as much integration into their platform as possible. It's becoming easier and easier for the end user to do that. They have a product called Cowork, which is basically a platform to spin up agentic AI with relative ease. So there's no kind of coding and don't have to worry about coding. It's a matter of just clicking those integrations and then using it in natural language. I met with stuff last night that I'm still investigating. It's building almost compounding daily. So my answer to you is check out Claude for that. I know you said you are using it. The very specific thing, it's probably an API. You're going to have to get some tech involved, but I'd say just be patient. I think they are on a tear right now in making this out of all the others for an enterprise platform. Next one, how are you seeing roles on technology tech teams shifting and evolving with the deployment of AI? So it's changing quite a bit for tech organizations. It's for engineers. There's a quote a friend say it the other day, and I just love it. He said, "There's no longer the bottleneck is," and that really spoke volumes to me. And that the focus needs to be the coding is becoming a commodity now, right? We have Claude, we have Codex with OpenAI. There's the Google, it's doing quite a bit in that space too. For the most part, clarity is what's going to be king. And it's like your product owners and your analysts and those who are able to critical thinking, first principle mindset, and the critical thinking and how you structure the goals and objectives that you're looking to achieve. Knowing, model's a little different, but knowing how your model likes to see things broken down and being able to put that in a concise, going to come down to critical thinking and communication because it's natural language after all, right? So there's going to be a huge focus on that. Less code, and you're going to have your handful of Robin foreheads that know like the ins and outs on the technical side of stuff. But for by and large, your business users, it's going to be put in the hands of the business users, and those business users and those technical people have to almost kind of be more business user and analysts to be able to communicate more effectively. I'm saying that, many developers are used to in front of a screen. So it's a uniquely human skill that is going to be kind of paramount for success in using the technology. Are you finding that automating processes that may not even be needed any longer, are you going deeper into the why before the what? That's a great question, Todd. And yes, that's exactly it. You have to ask the why, right? Because it's the paving the cow path analogy that I use. We've always done it this way, right? No longer it never was the answer, but it's now more than ever, right? You just don't want to amplify bad processes. The other one too is still have folks that have that institutional knowledge in their head, or no, their workflow consists of this in a pen or it's on their laptop in an Excel spreadsheet, right? It's very important to inventory of all of that and then asking the question why, right? You have to look at. We're going to talk about that in the next session about your organizational readiness. When we talk about people, technology, and process, in particular process, you have to look at the whole system. Historically, we have looked at these in silos. Oh, well, there's the people thing, and that's an organizational change thing. And we have the technology, and that has to do with architecture and data and networking and the plumbing, right? And then the processes. Um, you have to look at it as a complete system. And there are, you don't want to use the Elon Musk example of, what the Falcon 1 looked like in the first iteration and where it is today. It is a quarter of the size and uses, parts. And so we have to take the same approach to we have double digit people here, so that's pretty great. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. All right, a couple of thank yous there. Let me go back and see if there's one more question I can ask you. We have 9 left here. I'll wrap it up by pass. Industries overly dependent on billable hour models are struggling with value pricing, law, and advertising. Don't you know it? Yep. That was kind of more of a statement and maybe looking to get my hot take on it. I would say you are absolutely right. Founder in a business, especially with this go around with AI, we are saving tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on what we normally would be paying for outside vendors for. And it goes back to the old, if I can get 80% there on my own, and we go back to the skills required to use, for kind of the world is, all right, what's the business objective? What are we looking to achieve? How can I construct this in a manner that I get the best results out of AI? And knowing to have the discernment of like, okay, the limit on what this is capable to do for me. It may be at 80%, it may be at a 90%. Heck, it might even be at a 50%. But guess what? It just saved me 50, 70, 80, or almost 90% of billable hours to something. So you're seeing that across the board. You're seeing that across the board. And not a tear shed for the lawyers. I'll just say that. Sorry, bad joke, but sorry, not sorry. Let's see. Yeah, I think we've hit all of our questions here, so this is great. The only one that was anonymous was the one who was asking me, like, "Hey, get the period of time that it takes for you to deliver something. Does that mean the rate's going to go down?" That's anonymous. Hey, fair, fair. But hope I explained that. Look at your own businesses. You know what I am talking about. But again, it has to be a value play, right? This is forcing us as business owners and their sole practitioner is there has to be a huge focus on value, right? Because if you don't, you're going to be left in the dust. Exchanging time for money these days is, I say exchanging time for money these days, but I guarantee you within the next 3 to 5, it's going to be very, very hard. It's not going to be the norm. So with that said, we are right about 12:15. Thank you all for sticking with me and let me share my insights and opinions on things. Hope to see you again. on the next session. And again, you have my stuff. You have the QR code there. Hit me up with any questions or concerns that you may have. I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks, and have a great week, everybody. Take care.